Hello, everyone, and welcome to another fantastic session within the framework of our BBELT 2025. Today, we have something really special for you all. We're going to be holding a panel discussion on using GenAI as a conversational partner in class. Now, to talk about this topic, we have brought together three very distinguished panelists who I'm going to welcome to this session. First of all, we're going to be joined by Maxim Barkov. Maxim is a full-time professor researcher at the National School for Languages, Linguistics and Translation, ENALLT, of the National Autonomous University of Mexico, UNAM. His main areas of academic interest are pronunciation teaching, language acquisition, and the use of ICT in language teaching. We are also going to welcome to the floor Monserrat Guerra. Monserrat works as an English teacher at the Extension Centers of the National School for Languages, Linguistics and Translation, ENALLT, of the National Autonomous University of Mexico, UNAM, and furthermore, she holds a degree in educational psychology from the National Pedagogical University, UPN. Thank you, Monserrat. We are also going to give a warm welcome to Sofía Alemán. Sofía is a senior undergraduate student in applied linguistics at the National Autonomous University of Mexico, and currently she's teaching English as a foreign language at the National Polytechnic Institute in Mexico City. So welcome, Sofía, Maxim, and Monserrat. It's such a pleasure to have you here today. So just to give a heads up to our audience, we're going to have a brief presentation on using generative artificial intelligence as a conversational partner in class. And we welcome all participants to leave their questions in the chat, because at the end of the presentation, we're going to have a space for panel discussion where we're going to be asking Maxim, Monserrat, and Sofía a series of questions on the topic of using generative AI as a conversational partner in class. So we want to hear your questions, we want to share them, and we want to discuss them with the panel. All that said, Maxim, I'll give the floor to you to start us on our presentation. Welcome.
Thank you, Mariela, for this introduction, and let's get started. So as you can see, the title of our talk is Using GenAI as a Conversational Partner in Class. All right, so let's take a look at the general overview of the topics that we'll be covering today. So first of all, we'll make a brief introduction to the topic in question. Then we'll discuss the theoretical framework we were inspired by when we started working on this project. Then we'll talk about GenAI as a conversation partner, how it can be applied in English classes. Then EAR, exploratory action research into the use of GenAI. Something I'm very excited about is a study that we have been conducting for the last several months, and would like to share our preliminary findings with you in here. And lastly, we'll try to draw some conclusions with regard to how to apply GenAI effectively, and that's what we're doing today. So without further ado, let's jump right in and let's take a look into introduction. By the way, remember that you can scan the QR code if you'd like to download a copy of this presentation. So I will stay here on the slide for the next 30 seconds so that anyone can download it if they want to. Okay, so hopefully everyone has been able to do so, and let's jump right in. Okay, so first of all, as you know, English is a very important language. In fact, as you can see here, for example, in figure 1, if one speaks English, one can access up to 55% of all websites, meaning of all the information available online. This in contrast, for example, with Russian or Spanish or French, well, in this case, it's somewhere around 5 or 4%. And English is also used, as we know, it's a lingua franca, at least de facto lingua franca in foreign trade. It enables us to access state-of-the-art research, entertainment industry, technology, programming, tourism, especially here in Mexico. It's a lingua franca in all these fields. However, in our case, in the Mexican context, only 1/3 of Mexican professionals rate themselves as being able to speak English. And it's a big problem because on the one hand, we have this demand to learn English, but on the other hand, many Mexican professionals can't speak English. Okay, so how do we deal with this? In fact, by the way, as you can see, many Mexican professionals seek to apply it in their daily work and to be able to gain presence in the international arena, especially if you like to exchange services or goods with other countries, or if you like to publish your research in an international journal. Obviously, you need English. But like we said, speaking is a very challenging skill, and generally it's very poorly developed. But why? Because, in fact, there are very few spaces where one can put to good use what they learn in class. So, in fact, if you don't use it, you're very likely to lose it at some point. And what we notice is that right now there's rapid growth of chatbots, and particularly of all kinds of GenAI-based, general artificial intelligence-based tools. And what we thought that why not take these tools and apply it to teaching English? Okay, so the question that we made at the very beginning of this project is, could GenAI actually improve the teaching of speaking skills? Okay, and we believe that it can improve the teaching process in several ways. For example, it complements teachers' work. They don't have to do everything by themselves anymore. It increases learners' autonomy, and again, it even personalized learning experience by providing the teacher with the opportunity of creating all kinds of materials and tailoring their lessons to the needs of their students. So, and in general, like we said, innovative approaches are urgently needed in ESL because we cannot use the same approaches over and over again. We have to try out new things and see how we can improve our current teaching, our teaching practice. Okay, so that was the first point, introduction, and now let's move to the second one, namely theoretical framework. Okay, so in fact, we'd like to discuss a couple of studies here that we consulted before delving into anything GenAI related. The first one would be this study by Fathi et al. From 2024, where what they did, basically, they worked with 65 young English learners from Iran, and they divided them into two groups. In one of the groups, students interacted with both standard speaking activities, but they also added chatbot enhanced speaking activities to the exercises used in that group. In the other group, in the control group, they mainly used traditional speaking activities. And what they did, they contrasted the performance in both groups, and they decided that the group in which chatbot enhanced speaking activities were used performed better in the test that they applied. And learners in general, in this particular study, showed a very positive attitude towards collaboration with a chatbot. And what they really liked about this type of interactions was the fact that they found themselves in a pressure-free environment, no one judged them, and task personalization. Basically, they could improvise, they could ad-lib, they could add some additional information, and in fact, the chatbot was okay with it, and it went along with this new additions to the interaction. Another study that we'd like to cite here would be the one by Yang et al. From 2022. And what they did here, they provided 300 adolescent career participants with access to a platform where they could interact with a chatbot. And what's really interesting about these interactions was the fact that, on average, students took part in somewhere around 10 turns in each chat. So basically, in each chat, there was somewhere around 10 turns, which is a quite high number when it comes to think about it, because they completed full-fledged conversation with this tool. Then their lexical level consisted mostly of the 1,000 most common English words, so they mainly used their active vocabulary. And what's really interesting about this study is that the success rate of chatbot user interaction was very, very high, somewhere around 88%. But there were some limitations nonetheless. For example, sometimes the program did not understand the students because it was not accustomed to their pronunciation. And sometimes it went completely off rails and it started to provide them with erroneous information, go off topic, talk about something completely unrelated about the original task. And we would also like to mention some models, theories that were inspired by when I started working on this topic. One of them would be this TOEFL speaking rubric. And in fact, the question that we had, what kind of speaking we would like to tackle with our intervention. And we think that our intervention, the objective of our intervention could be twofold. So on the one hand, we could tackle delivery, namely fluency, intonation, rhythm, and pronunciation, and language use, especially, as you can see, vocabulary and grammar. Because as you can see, we need all of those to be able to speak fluently and talk to this kind of program. So we have to speak fluently because our skills will get automated due to this concept output, our use of the target language, and we have to be extremely clear and precise in our vocabulary, grammar, and pronunciation. It's of paramount importance. I would also like to mention this Dell's interaction theory. In fact, it may look a little bit complex at first, but just bear with me. Basically, what we can see here, that whenever we think of a new concept, let's say the word cat, okay, we start with semantics. Then we go to the next level. We think of the concept, then the word itself, and then we have to link this word with the phonemes that we will use in order to articulate this word. Okay, and the problem with our students' fluency is that in their minds, the link between the concepts, the words, and the target sounds hasn't been reinforced. It's not so strong as to enable them to speak fluently. And in fact, in this case, for example, other concepts, okay, other notes will be competing with the word cat. For example, the word dog, the word rat, and so on and so forth. So what we want to do, we want to reinforce this link via constant interaction with GenAI AI tools. Okay, so that's what we'd like to achieve here. And one last model that I would like to mention here would be the SMAR model. So basically, whenever we start interacting with a new technology, first, we as educators want to substitute an existing function and we notice no change. Then all of a sudden, we might notice some improvements, and then we start to redesign the existing tasks. And then at the very end, in the revision phase, we find out that we don't even notice the presence of a new tool. We just take it for granted, and we start creating new tools. We start creating new tasks, and we think about the new application of the target program. In our case, Monse, we'll talk about it. I think we're somewhere near, very close to the augmentation phase. So there we go. And that would be that as far as I'm concerned. So thank you very much for your kind attention. I will see you in the Q&A session. And right now, I'd like to pass the baton to my colleague, Sofía. And thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Maxim. And hello, everybody. As you listened, my name is Sofía Alemán, and I am so glad to be here with you. So let's begin with the second part. In this section, I like to talk about ChatGPT voice mode and Copilot voice as our examples of generative AI and how we can use these tools to improve our students' speaking skills in class. To begin with, let's talk about chatbots. As we mentioned before, these are a type of software that simulate human-like communication. They are classified into two different sections, which are text-based and also voice-enabled chatbots. One characteristic of these tools is that they were not created for language learning, but to assist us with other things that we do every day, let's say like personal assistance. However, if we want to implement such tools in our language classrooms, we need to do something different. And this is exactly what Yang et al. Mentioned. If we want to use chatbots for language learning, it's subject to well-designed tasks that enable students to interact with them. That means that for us, as the teachers, it is our job to create well-created tasks, well-created activities that allow our students to interact with these new tools. In that sense, let's talk about a little bit of generative AI. This is a type of artificial intelligence that generates something that we are asking it for. For example, text, image, audio, video, coding, etc. In the case of text and also audio or speech, it uses the large language model that emulates natural language. That is how we people speak every day. This type of generative AI are classified into different types according to the input and also the output mode. That is how it receives the information and how it gives the information back to us. For example, we have text-to-text, such as ChatGPT, that it is very well known, also Copilot from Microsoft, Gemini from Google. We also have text-to-speech, such as in 11 Labs, and also speech-to-text like in the dictation mode of ChatGPT. As you can see here, we can have more than one generative AI that belongs to different types of them. And now I would like to introduce to you ChatGPT Voice Mode. This was launched in September 2023, and what it does is that it changes again the way of communication. What do I mean? What I mean is that now we are going to communicate by speech, that is audio, and it is going to respond with a speech to us, that is audio again. So it is audio to audio. If we want to use this, what we need to do is simply tapping the icon that is right here next to the microphone one, and then we are going to go to this different screen. On this screen, we can actually start speaking and interacting with the GenAI, but if we decide to, we can also tap here the settings icon, and we will be able to choose one from 9 different AI-generated voices. The other one that I'd like to introduce to you today is Copilot Voice. This is a little bit newer because it was launched in October 2024, and the interface is a little bit different. In this case, to activate the voice mode, what we need to do is tap on the microphone icon, and then we need to choose from 4 different AI-generated voices. And in contrast to the other one, in this case, we can also decide the voice speed, which, if you think of it, is really useful for our learners too. After this, we can start interacting with this tool. Now, how can you use GenAI in your language classes? Well, we propose these 4 options today. The first one, to solve learners-specific questions about the class content. You know that this is something that happens every day, all the time, that a student encounters with a word that is especially challenging in a text or hear a sentence that is not quite clear yet. Well, we can ask GenAI to help us to solve this problem. Second, to serve as an interlocutor in role-play activities, to hold a conversation with a student on a specific topic. This one, in contrast to the second one, it is for freer interaction. In the case of the second, it is for more controlled one. And finally, to provide detailed feedback on a student's performance in the task. We can ask to give some feedback to our students right after they finish a conversation, for example. In this case, I would like to introduce to you several examples using these principles, and for it, we created them thinking a specific scenario. The scenario has the following characteristics. We have a B1 level class, and we are going to use the PPP model, which is presentation, practice, and production, which is commonly used in language teaching. The topic is going to be tourism, and what we want to achieve is that our students discuss tourism-related topics using appropriate vocabulary and expressions. So let's start with the first one. We have brainstorming. This is thought for the presentation phase that is like the first one in our model. In this case, our objective is to introduce key vocabulary related to our topic, tourism. In order to do so, what our student needs to do is to read the following prompt to the generative AI. The prompt in this case is, let's pretend you are part of a B1 level English course. Take the role of a student. In today's class, we are going to do a brainstorming about tourism. As you can see here, and it is one of the most important characteristics of this, is that we need to set the context, a very specific context in our prompt. Additionally, we also need to indicate the role that the GenAI is going to assume, because this is how it is going to interact with our students. And later on, we can introduce the task that is going to be performed. Now, I would like to show you how this looks like. Let's pretend you are part of a B1 level English course. Take the role of a student. In today's class, we are going to do a brainstorming about tourism.
Sounds fun. I'm ready to brainstorm about tourism. Where should we start?
Let's start with types of tourism.
Sure. There are many types of tourism. For example, cultural tourism, where people visit places to learn about local culture and traditions. Or adventure tourism, for those who enjoy activities like hiking or mountain climbing. What about you? Do you have a favorite type of tourism?
Yes, I am interested in backpacking. I listened that it is when you pack all your belongings into your backpack and then you travel around the world, and that it can be cheap because you do not have to worry about your luggage way too much.
Backpacking sounds exciting. It's definitely a great way to explore new places on a budget. You can meet locals and experience cultures in a more authentic way. Have you ever been backpacking before?
All right. So, as you can see, this was using the prompt that I showed you before. Here, the key vocabulary that we wanted our student to use was adventure tourism, backpacking, cultural tourism, and ecotourism. You heard how the AI mentioned one of them, and then our student mentioned the other one. For this one, we use ChatGPT voice mode in the 4.0 mini version that is available to free users 8 to 10 minutes every day. After this time, free users cannot use this version, but the standard voice, but we still have the opportunity to interact with the Gen AI. A characteristic of this version is that it has a more natural and real-time conversations with our students, as you could listen here. Now, let's talk about another activity that you can use on the production phase, that is a role play activity. In this case, we have a more guided conversation where students need to use some target language. The prompt in this case says, let's pretend you are part of a B1 level English course. Take the role of a student. In today's class, we are performing a conversation between a tourist and a travel agent. I am going to be the travel agent and you will be the tourist. Let's see. In this case, what we wanted, as I mentioned before, was some specific vocabulary, target language. And we can see how our student actually use it, like in this phrase, good morning, sir, how may I help you? And then how GenAI responded back. And also how our student later on had to adapt her responses to what ChatGPT told her before. We saw this in the use of specific places, first Spain and then Madrid. In this specific case with the role play activity, we can ask ChatGPT to perform one role or the other. In this case, I want to show you how it looks like if we ask ChatGPT to perform now the travel agent and our student will be the tourist. That is exactly the opposite as we saw before. In this case, what I am showing to you is one more time the use of ChatGPT voice mode, free version, but now with the standard voice. In this case, the standard voice, it is a little bit different in the sense that it provides more detailed explanation, but it lacks a little bit of this natural flow in the conversation. Additionally, the conversation that we have with this mode cannot be recorded, but we can always share the conversation. For us as teachers, have an evidence of the work of our student is essential, and we can ask them to share their conversation with ChatGPT via link. If they do so, what we are going to see when we click on the link will be a screen like this with the conversation. This conversation was one that a student had with ChatGPT orally, but what we can see is like the transcript of it. You can see here how our student used exactly the same prompt with a difference, that is the change of roles. Additionally, as I mentioned before, it is common that our students struggle with certain words during our classes, with certain structures, expressions, etc. And also ChatGPT or GenAI in general can be of help for them. In this case, we are going to use the following prompt that says, let's pretend you are a student in a B1 level English course and I am your classmate. We are studying vocabulary related to the topic tourism in class. While in class, I struggle with a word, so I ask you for help. The question is, what is of the beaten path? Remember that you are also a student, not the teacher. Here is so important that we remind the generative AI the role that we want it to perform. In this case, we want a partner. We have a classmate. We do not want the teacher. For this one, I didn't use ChatGPT. I used the other one. Let's see the difference.
Hi. Let's pretend you are a student in a B1 level English course and I am your classmate. We are studying vocabulary related to the topic tourism in class. While in class, I struggle with a word, so I ask you for help. The question is, what is off the beaten path? Remember that you are also a student, not
off
a
the
teacher.
beaten path means a place that's not known to a lot of tourists. It's like a hidden gem away from the popular spots. People go there for a more authentic or unique experience. Got it?
Not quite. Can you explain this?
Sure. Off the beaten path
again,
refers
and
to
maybe
places
give an
that aren't
example?
popular tourist destinations. Think of it like taking a road less traveled. For example, instead of visiting the Eiffel Tower in Paris.
All right.
Hi,
Oh, sorry.
let's pretend.
Here. Okay. For this example, what we use is Copilot Voice. And let's remember, it was launched in, yes, October 2024. And this, what we are using is the free version. One of the characteristics of this free version is that it cannot be recorded just as the standard version of ChatGPT. So in this case, what I used was the recording of my own device in order to show you the example. Additionally, we can see how this GenAI still struggles with turn taking. We saw that when this GenAI interrupted our student, but still it could do the activity and it provided the information that the student was requiring. Then, and finally, I would say, we have an activity for feedback. We may also want our students receive very well detailed feedback, and GenAI can also assist us on that matter. In that case, we would like to use a prompt as the following one. Let's pretend you are part of a B1 level English course. Take the role of a student. In today's class, we are performing a conversation between a tourist and a travel agent. I am going to be the tourist, you will be the travel agent. At the end of the conversation, please provide some feedback. As you can see, the indication is right there in the first prompt. And additionally, our student may want to remind, in this case, ChatGPT, to provide her with feedback. Let's see.
Okay, we finished. Can you provide some feedback to me?
Sure. Your responses were clear and helpful, which is great. You provided useful information about the flight and the best time to visit Madrid. One suggestion is to try to maintain a steady pace and maybe simplify some phrases to make it easier for the listener. Overall, great job.
Okay. Can you tell me which of those phrases you think I should work on, please?
Of course. For example, when you said, maybe if you want to travel first to France and then go to Madrid, you will have a great experience. You could simplify it to, if you want to visit France first and then Madrid, that will be a great experience.
In this case, we saw how first our student reminded ChatGPT for the task, that is the feedback itself, and then how it provided her with a very general feedback. And afterwards, our student decided to ask for a more detailed one, which in this case, ChatGPT mentioned some details related to her syntax that could be of help to improve her clarity when speaking. So that is it. I hope that you enjoyed this section and thank you so much for your kind attention. Now let's welcome my colleague Monse.
Thank you, Sophie. So now we're going to continue with the two last parts, that is exploration and action research into the use of GenAI and our conclusions. So let's start. Okay, so first of all, exploration action research is a participatory methodology used to investigate and improve teaching practices. It is focused in real-world problems and normally it involves some steps like exploration phase when we identify and understand some problems, the planning of like what we are going to address, the problem that we're going to address, implementation, our observation and reflection. In observation, we are going to collect and analyze data, and finally, we are going to evaluate results. We have already done this part, and right now we are in this, like our action. In our case, we are exploring whether action research can be used or serve as an effective conversational partner to help students develop their speaking abilities. We have already completed the exploration phase, and right now we are in the action phase, in the intervention. Well, it is important because according to our experience, our students struggle with oral communication in English, in the target language, and they experience difficulties in fluency and vocabulary. So, we're in the next part that I'm going to present you. It's about our methodology. I'm going to address the methodology and our exploration phase, the findings that we have until this moment, that are just our preliminary results, our current interventions, and like our future analysis plan. So let's start with the needs analysis. So our study was conducted with 16 adult Mexican students. They are B1 students in the Common European Framework of Reference. And well, we applied this needs analysis questionnaire to understand more or less the needs and challenges they have. So first of all, we noticed that they are only somewhat comfortable with their oral skills in English. And we confirmed that the main difficulties they face are fluency and vocabulary. We also noticed that most students were aware of what artificial intelligence is, and that they believe that it's a tool that can assist them improve their learning of English. The most commonly used tools were, as you can see here, Duolingo, followed by ChatGPT, Gemini, Bing AI. But while they have all these tools and they have used it, most of them were used to improve vocabulary and grammar, but they were not used to improve speaking skills. Okay, so let's go to our action. To assess the students' speaking skills, we had a diagnostic exam. We based our diagnostic test in the speaking section of the Cambridge preliminary test. We divided into two parts. A very short and brief interview with general questions that served as an icebreaker and controlled practice, and a descriptive free practice. In this case, students observe this picture, and here we have the instruction. A young man works very hard and has only one free day a week. He wants to find an activity to help him relax. In this case, students spontaneously give the advice they consider, and it was to free practice, to evaluate free practice. And these two gave us a baseline to have our future measure. Okay, so now let's go with our GenAI interactions. So to enhance speaking practice, we integrated some AI interventions and interactions. As Sofía had described, we designed some specific tasks and activities. In this case, it's important to mention that these interactions aligned with the SAMR model that Max mentioned at the beginning, and it's progressing from the substitution that it's using AI as a simple tool to augmentation, in which it is an interactive learning aid. Okay, so well, the types of interactions we had were brainstorming. AI provided a relevant vocabulary and phrases to start or trigger discussions. For example, here we have a brainstorming prompt for ChatGPT. Let's pretend you are part of a B1 English course. Take the role of a student. In today's class, we're going to do brainstorming about the topic. Answer accordingly. In this case, they have used family relationships, they have used tourism, so they have used it for different things and situations. We also have these that are specific questions. So in this case, students asked AI explanations of new words or phrases, sentences, and contextualized usage. The prompt was like this: act as my classmate. Both of us are intermediate English students. Please explain what the meaning of the word or phrase is. Remember, you are also a student. In this case, I want also to highlight that these are cards that students use to give the prompt orally. Okay, they are using their cards to read the prompt to ChatGPT to have this speaking interaction. Okay, so in the future, this we hope these interactions can be used like a part of a natural integration. And finally, we have these that are like the the fluency practice. Okay, so here we have an example in which they are going to practice or using now ChatGPT as a real conversational partner. In here we have a prompt. Let's pretend you are a student in a B1 level English course and I am your classmate. We are practicing how to handle misunderstandings in a conversation. They have to describe the situation. In here we have two different situations. So the situation is, for example, students will say, a student is at an OXXO and asks for a lemonade, but the cashier brings a Gatorade. You are going to be the student and I am the cashier. Okay, so they are going to practice. Previously during the lesson, they had the opportunity to practice with their classmates, practice phrases to handle misunderstandings, but they can practice this with ChatGPT after their lesson as a homework and without feeling pressure, the pressure of, for example, their peers, if they mispronounce something. So it's a really, really good way to continue the practice outside class. Okay, to continue our practice outside class. And well, this picture was taken precisely while they were asking ChatGPT. They were working in teams, they were having a reading, and they asked for a specific questions. During all this, we faced some problems, and we face like two kind of issues. On the one hand, we face some technical problems, and on the other hand, some linguistic problems. Uh, the technical problems we faced, first of all, were some configuration issues. Like when they install the app on their devices, some of them require like assistance with the troubleshooting issues like configuration and all that stuff. The second one that actually we didn't expect was that students confuse the microphone icon that it's the dictation icon, with this that it's the speaking interaction icon. So what they were having was a speak to text interaction. So they were dictating ChatGPT. So what they were receiving was a text answered. And here they had like the speaking icon that was like the confused. When this was clarified, they were able to engage in activities and work with ChatGPT effectively. And on the other hand, we faced some linguistic problems. First, we have comprehension problems. Many students struggle understanding ChatGPT, and they said that GenAI's responses were too fast. So in here, what we had to do was to practice repetition and reformulation techniques as the ones they used with their classmates, and show them how they can use these techniques with the AI. So we had to practice using these reformulation techniques, but with ChatGPT. Another one was pronunciation problems. In this case, it's something important. At the beginning, uh, Max mentioned also like these things that it was necessary to be clear. So they face pronunciation problems precisely because they were not clear and they were mispronouncing some words. Here we have an example of something that happened with the word drought. Students, in some cases, were pronouncing something like drought. Instead of drought, they pronounced drought. And what happened was that the GenAI was telling them that the word didn't exist. So they got frustrated at the beginning because they asked me, it's because ChatGPT is not understanding me. Why does that happen? And well, actually, it was like a mispronunciation problem. And finally, a turn taking problem. In this case, it happened that while they were having conversational interactions, uh, the AI interrupted them, or since they took too long to reformulate or formulate responses, AI took it as they have ended their turn. So we had like here some problems, the ones that we've had faced. Then we're going to mention like here very fast our analysis plan. In our analysis plan, we are planning on having a post test again based on the speaking section from the Cambridge preliminary test, a midterm evaluation, and a term evaluation. We are going to analyze this in a qualitative and a quantitative way. So the qualitative analysis through some questionnaires like self-perception questionnaires, interviews in Spanish with the most representative or interesting cases, and additionally quantitative analysis just like to measure the improvement based on the number of words per minute, the number of pillars, among others. So to close this, our conclusions. So, well, right now we just have some preliminary findings, and our preliminary findings suggest that GenAI is a powerful tool. We think it's promising. It's a promising tool for language learning. Unlike other apps, in this case, we can develop speaking skills. Most of the apps right now are only focusing on vocabulary or grammar, but here we can have a potential conversational partner that supports developing speaking skills in a more natural and engaging way. Additionally, well, Gen AI, we have seen that can work as a complementary teaching tool, and it also fosters learners' autonomy, and well, it boosts English fluency. We have we have all these, I repeat, our preliminary findings, and well, we look forward to our final results and to present them at the next opportunity. So that will be all. uh, Thank you for listening. Here I present you our bibliography if you want to consult something further. And well, thank you for your attention, and we welcome any questions.
Thank you so very much, Maxim, Sofía, and Monserrat. It's been such an interesting experience that you've led, and there's so much potential for using generative AI. And as you very well mentioned, what we typically hear are students using it for vocabulary, for grammar practice, and this area of using AI as a conversation practice tool is still relatively within uncharted territory. So the type of exploratory action research that you've been doing is very enlightening. I'm sure the chat has a ton of questions for you. We don't have a lot of time, but we're going to segue into the question and answer segment, and we're going to try to answer a few, okay?